Hello. Thank you for choosing to attend our session on teaching biographies in the language classroom. We're going to talk about teaching biographies using content-based instruction, staying in the target language, and always being totally comprehensible. So before you watch the video, it'd be good to know that there's a PDF file you can download that is a companion to this session. It's called the Teacher Viewing Guide. And that has, because there's going to be some model Swedish lessons, it has a little glossary for you so you know what we're talking about. It also has a ton of teaching tips and resources for how you can create your own biographies lessons afterwards. So here we go. Let's get going.
All right.
Hey, who's there?
Hey, Jan.
Hey.
I thought I'd like to start out with a little quiz for you.
Oh my goodness. I didn't know there was going to be a quiz. You didn't tell me it's going to be a quiz. It's a pop quiz?
Yeah. So you got to tell me what those horses are back there. What kind of horses are those?
Oh, vad det en dalahäst.
Oh, bra. So det en häst. This is a horse. Det en häst. But those are special ones. They come from a place called Dalarna. So they're
called a dalahäst.
Woohoo! Duk dig a dog. You are
talk to Nicket
today. You are smart today. Duk.
Oh, talk to Nicket, Barb. Hey, yeah. Barb. Who are you?
Oh, well, I'm Barb Cartford, and I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm actually a Swedish and a Spanish teacher. I was a classroom teacher for over 30 years. I've taught all ages in a variety of settings. So I just like to say that I've taught them all from age 3 to 93. But my favorite place to teach is right here in my very own living room.
Especially right there.
Yeah, small groups of people. But ever since March, I've been in my living room, but everybody else has been at home because we've met online on Zoom. So now it's your turn.
Well, I will just say right back to you, Barb, do diggy dog. Yeah, do diggy dog. So I'm Jan Kittok, and I have been teaching languages. Spanish is my classroom language. I've been teaching since the 80s, and at some time or another, I have taught every single level from K to 16. And the last 20 years, I've been focusing on teacher training. I used to travel around the country to do that, but of course, hey, it's 2020. So I've been Zooming around the country. And right now, we're Zooming right to you at ACTFul. So enjoying this new format, the new challenges we have, even though it's just crazy. It's just crazy. That's all it is. So, and I too live in Minnesota. I live on a farm right outside of Minneapolis. So Barb and I are very close together. We collaborate a lot. We've been collaborating for years. We met in the 80s at the Concordia Language Villages. And so that's part of our background. There's so many things, so many ingredients that go into the secret sauce. That's the lesson we're going to share with you today. And that we both have immersion backgrounds. We both took the same master's degree at the U of M, which focused on content-based instruction. We have been CI, stands for Comprehensible Input. We've been CI teachers since the 80s. We're some of the pioneers coming to you today. We did TPR back when nobody knew what TPR was. We took the TPRS journey together, and now we're putting it all together to create what we designed for you today. So let's get going. Biographies, that's our topic. Why teach biographies in a language classroom? I'll tell you why I teach biography in a language classroom is because every year that I've taught, I have seen that students know less and less about the world. I'm really concerned as a citizen, and especially as a teacher, and especially as a world languages and cultures teacher, how little our students know about the world. They just don't get it. When I'm talking about some cultural event or a concept, they don't have the background knowledge. They don't have general knowledge about the world, a geographic sense, a historical timeline sense. They can't connect the dots because they don't have the dots. They're missing basic general knowledge about how the world works. Who has power? Who gets power? How do you lose power? What happens when cultures come together? Do they mix? Do they blend? Does one group become dominant over the other? What happens? These are key things for us to know and to understand in calling ourselves educated speakers of multiple languages. Knowing the language isn't enough if you don't have something intelligent to say. So, world language story. I'm a big picture thinker. So when I plan curriculum, when I plan my daily lessons, I think about what content am I going to teach the students so that as they're acquiring a new language, they're also learning something. I'm filling in that world knowledge gap that the students have. And so when I teach these topics like a history, a biography, art, folktale, legend, current events, news items, my students are learning something about the world at the same time they're learning language. They get 2 for the price of 1. Yep, it's 2 for 1. So the lesson we chose today, we chose a biography lesson using the story of Greta Thunberg. We chose Greta for a couple of reasons. Number one, she is a mover and a shaker in the world today. She has been mobilizing movements around the topic of global climate change. And number two, because she's a youth leader. She's a teenager in Sweden who started with a school strike in her own school, and it's become a worldwide phenomenon. In fact, she was named Time Magazine's Person of the Year for 2019. So that's the model lesson that Barb taught to some friends of hers, a friend and her great niece and a friend of hers. And so this is their second Swedish lesson. You're going to see several different segments. Barb will introduce each segment, what it's about, what to look for and listen for. So you're going to see pieces of the lesson, not the lesson in its entirety. But we wanted to show you what's possible. For these students are only in their second, I'm going to say that again. I know I said it a bit ago. This is only their second Swedish lesson. Listen to the content and the language that they're able to understand and interact with at this very early level. And if students can do this at the beginning level, what in the world can they be doing in the upper levels? I have a vision that we start building that background knowledge as intentionally as we do. When do we teach the double object pronouns? We all know when we do that in our curriculum sequences. When do we teach different cultural concepts so that we're building the background knowledge as our students progress through our language programs? So when they get to be more mature students, they're ready for controversial topics. They're ready for some deep dives into culture. They have not only the language skills, but they also have the background knowledge to understand what in the world they're talking about. So here's our first video segment. Take it away, Barb.
Yeah, video number 1, pre-teach, make language comprehensible. In this video clip, you're going to see me. I just love my props, and I love using my props with my students. So that's one of the things, along with posted words and gestures that I use for interactive questioning to introduce chunks of language essential to understanding the story. Now, I don't know if Jen mentioned that these two younger kids that are in the videos, they also teach German actually. And so they, it helps them because there's a lot of cognates between German and Swedish, but they are just like very eager to learn. Det en flagga. Det en flagga?
Ja.
Ja, det en flagga. Det en svensk flagga. Det en svensk flagga?
Nej.
Nej, det inte en svensk flagga. Det en amerikansk flagga. Vad det?
Det en svensk flagga.
Ja, bra. Det en svensk flagga. Vad det?
Det en amerikansk flagga.
Yay, bra. Det en amerikansk flagga. Pippi en svensk flicka. Dorothy en svensk flicka?
Nej.
Nej, Dorothy inte en svensk flicka. Dorothy en...
Amerikansk flicka.
Bra, Dorothy en amerikansk flicka. Dorothy har en hund. Dorothy har en hund. Har Pippi en hund?
Nej.
Nej. Pippi har ingen hund. Har Pippi en katt?
Nej.
Nej. Pippi har ingen katt. Har Pippi vad har Pippi?
En flicka.
Pippi har. So har is asking have. What does she have? So har Pippi en apa?
Appa.
Ja.
Ja.
Pippi en flicka. Pippi har en apa. Those are kind of close, those two words. So Pippi en flicka, Pippi har en apa. Och Pippi har en häst.
Häst.
Pippi har en häst. Pippi en svensk flicka. Pippi har en apa. Pippi har en häst. Pippi har en apa och en häst. En apa och en häst. Dorothy har ingen apa. Dorothy har ingen häst. Dorothy har en hund. Ja. Har Dorothy en katt?
Nej.
Nej, Dorothy har ingen katt. Har Pippi en katt?
Nej.
Nej, Pippi har ingen katt. Pippi har en apa och en apa och en häst. For this video, number 2, the story, setting, and character, this is the introduction to Greta. So the slides will show where she was born, her age, where she lives, and who's in her family. Once again, you can notice the interactive questioning to get lots of repetition of newly introduced vocabulary. School strike för klimatet. Greta Thunberg, klimataktivist. So, school strike for klimatet. Can you figure out what that means? School strike.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these words we have in this story are cognates. So I'm going to ask you like what it means sometimes in English. So, vad betyder is what does it mean? So, vad betyder school strike?
School strike.
Bra! Ja, du är duktig idag. För klimatet.
Oh yeah, strike for climate change.
Yeah, bra. School strike for the climate.
School strike, yeah.
Okay, bra. And then Greta Thunberg is a klimataktivist. So in Swedish,
Activist.
yeah, so in Swedish they take two words and they put them together to make one word. So the word skola is school, and strike, of course, you combine them, school strike, and then klimat is a word, and then aktivist is a word, so it's klimataktivist.
Mhm.
Okay, vem Greta Thunberg? Greta en svensk flicka. So, vem Greta?
Greta
Greta en svensk flicka eller en amerikansk flicka?
en svensk flicka.
En svensk flicka.
Ja, Greta en svensk flicka.
Greta.
Greta föddes den 3 januari 2003 i Stockholm. Så Greta föddes den 3
Mhm.
januari 2003 i Stockholm. Var föddes Greta?
I Stockholm.
Ja,
I
Greta föddes i Stockholm. Vem föddes i Stockholm?
Greta.
Greta, ja. Föddes Greta i 2002 eller föddes Greta i 2003?
I 2003.
Ja, Greta föddes i 2003. Var föddes Greta?
I Stockholm.
I Stockholm.
Ja, Greta föddes i Stockholm.
Greta föddes i Stockholm.
Bra. Det är Sverige. Det är Sverige. Och det är Stockholm.
Stockholm.
Stockholm är i Sverige. Ja. Greta är 17 år gammal. Är Greta 17 år gammal?
Ja.
Ja, Greta är 17 år gammal. Är Greta 3 år gammal eller är Greta 17 år gammal?
17.
Ja, Greta är 17 år gammal. Hon bor i Stockholm. Bonnie bor i Stockholm. Bonnie bor i Minneapolis. Barb, jag bor i Minneapolis. Greta bor i Stockholm.
Mhm.
Vem bor i Stockholm?
Greta.
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 Var bor Greta?
I
I
Stockholm.
Stockholm.
Ja, Greta
Stockholm.
bor i Stockholm. Hon bor med sin familj. Hon bor med sin mamma, sin pappa, sin lilla syster och sina 2 hundar. Greta har 2 hundar. Travis, har du en hund?
Ja.
Oh, du har en hund?
Mhm.
Vad heter din hund?
Min hund heter Zelda.
Zelda, okej. Anna, har du en hund?
Ja.
Ja?
Ja.
Vad heter din hund?
Min hund heter Kobe.
Oh, Kobe. Så Travis har en hund som heter Zelda och Anna har en hund som heter Kobe. Video number 3, story actions, school strikes for climate. So it starts with the review of the introduction, and it begins to tell her story, starting with her school strike for climate. She knew that she had to do something, and so she decided that she was going to do this school strike, and nobody did it with her. She was one person all by herself when she started the school strike. And she goes on to inspiring millions of people, millions of students to do the same.
Miljones.
Ja! School strike för klimatet. Greta Thunberg, klimataktivist. Vem Greta Thunberg? Greta en svensk flicka. Greta föddes den 3 januari 2003 i Stockholm. Greta 17 år gammal. Hon bor i Stockholm. Hon bor med sin familj, sin mamma, sin pappa sin lilla syster och sina 2 hundar. Greta gick inte till skolan den 20 augusti 2018. Vad betyder det?
Greta did not go to school on the 20th of August, 2018.
Ja, bra. Du är duktig idag. Gick Greta till skolan den 20 augusti 2018?
Nej.
Nej, Greta gick inte till skolan den 20 augusti 2018. Vem gick inte till skolan den 20 augusti 2018?
Greta.
Ja, Greta. Greta gick inte till skolan. Vart? Oh, ett ögonblick. Vart gick Greta?
Till skolan.
Greta gick inte till skolan. Hon gick till riksdagshuset. Hon gick till riksdagshuset. And then down at the bottom it says what it means. Riksdagshuset. Riksdagshuset. Och satt utanför. Hon gick i strejk. Det var en skolstrejk för klimatet. So hon satt utanför. What do you think sat is?
Sit.
Yeah, she sat out. She sat inside or outside?
Outside.
Yeah, yeah. Greta sat. Go ahead. Yeah, hon satt utanför. Outside, yeah. Hon satt utanför. Hon gick i strejk. And det var en skolstrejk för klimatet. Okay, so we're going to just review these 3. Greta gick inte till skolan den 20 augusti 2018. Hon gick till riksdagshuset i Stockholm och satt utanför. Hon gick i strejk. Det var en skolstrejk för klimatet. Många hörde talas om Gretas skolstrejk i Stockholm. Många hörde talas om Gretas skolstrejk i Sverige. Många hörde talas om Gretas skolstrejk i Europa. Många hörde talas om Gretas skolstrejk i hela världen. Vad betyder det? Vad betyder många hörde talas om Gretas skolstrejk i hela världen? Many people heard about her
Strike in the whole world.
The whole world, bra. Många hörde talas om Gretas skolstrejk i Stockholm. Många hörde talas om Gretas skolstrejk i Sverige. Och många hörde talas om Gretas skolstrejk i Europa. Och många hörde talas om Gretas skolstrejk i hela världen. Många skolor i hela världen gick i strejk för klimatet 2019. Många skolor gick
Many scholars, many students.
Schools.
Many schools.
Yep, you're on the right track. Yep. Many schools i hela världen.
In the whole world.
Yep, gick i strejk.
Went on strike.
Yep, för klimatet 2019.
Yeah.
Så det är i Uganda, i Afrika. Det är i England, i Europa. Det är i Antarktika. Var är det här?
And Deutschland.
Ja, det är i Tyskland. Ja, bra. Och den här i Ryskland, I think. Russia, maybe not. But yeah, you can tell that's in Tyskland.
Mhm.
Just
Den 15 mars 2019, 1 miljon människor, 2200 strejker och 125 länder. Den 15 mars. Så från augusti 2018, september, oktober, november, december, januari, februari, mars. 7 månader. 7 månader. 1 miljon människor. Greta var en människa, en person. Och 7 månader senare, 1 miljon människor. Och den 20 september, 4 miljoner människor. Och det här var i Chile, i Santiago, Chile. 4 miljoner människor. Video number 4, story conclusion, worldwide movement. So it once again, it reviews the storyline and then it concludes with the impact that Greta has made worldwide. Greta gick inte till skolan den 20 augusti 2018. Hon gick till riksdagshuset och satt utanför. Hon gick i strejk. Det var en skolstrejk för klimatet. Många hörde talas om Gretas skolstrejk i Stockholm. Många hörde talas om Gretas skolstrejk i Sverige. Och många hörde talas om Gretas skolstrejk i Europa. Och också i hela världen. Många skolor i hela världen gick i strejk för klimatet 2019. Den 15 mars 2019, 1 miljon människor, 2200 strejker och 125 länder. 4 miljoner människor i september, den 20 september 2019. Greta kom till USA. Vem kom till USA?
Greta.
Greta. Vart kom Greta?
till USA.
Till USA.
USA.
Kom Greta till Canada?
Nej.
Nej, Greta kom till USA. Varför? Greta flög inte. Nej, Greta
Enough fly.
Bra. Greta,
Enough fly.
right. Hon seglade.
She had a sailboat.
Ja, sailed. Ja, hon seglade. Hon flög inte. Hon seglade.
Huh.
Hon seglade till New York City den 23 augusti 2019.
Amazing.
So that was only like a year later. I mean, after. Och varför? Varför seglade hon till New York City? Greta talade i Förenta Nationerna den 23 september. Talade Greta i Förenta Nationerna?
Ja.
Ja, Greta talade i Förenta Nationerna. Talade Greta i augusti eller i september?
I September.
Bra, hon talade i FN i september. Greta talade på engelska. Hon sa, I want you to panic. I want you to feel the fear I feel every day. And then I want you to act. I want you to act as you would in a crisis. Now I can't get it to go to the next slide.
Oh, she spoke in English.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honsa. She said,
Bra! I was going to ask that, but I didn't. Yes.
Honsa.
But
Okay, it's a past tense or something, isn't it? Honsa.
Yeah. Yep. Now,
All right.
now there we go. Greta Talida Medpoven.
Ah, Medpoven.
Greta Talida Med Barack Obama. Greta Talida Med Al Gore.
Wow.
Greta Talida för många miljoner människor. Och det var I Canada. Det var I, I think it was, Ontario. Jag glömde. I forgot. Jag glömde. Men Greta talade för många miljoner personer och Greta var årets person 2019. Årets person för tidningen som heter Time. Ett ögonblick.
Årets person.
Årets person.
Greta var årets person
So
2019.
when I said that she was 17 år gammal, that she was 17 years old, that word years, or, so året is the person. So it was like the years person.
Person of the year. Yeah.
Another year. So this is the edition, the Time magazine. And, oh yeah, Montreal, that's where she was. She was in Montreal on that picture. Well, I'll go back. I can't go back. Anyway, that's Greta Thunberg at a climate march in Montreal on the Nshugu Huende September. Okay, so that's the end. Now for the 5th video, now we're going to get into some pop-ups. This is a pop-up explanation of the words year and the year. So that's a grammatique pop-up. So the word for the year is et or, and then, 2 words, et or, but then you talk about the year, it becomes 1 word, or it.
So Barb, you use these stories for more than just learning the story itself and a language lesson. You dive deep into some of the specifics of language here and there and everywhere throughout the days that you're teaching this lesson.
Yeah, and you just do a short, pop-up, maybe 10 seconds at the least, maybe 40 seconds if you have a little bit extra explanation, but it helps them to be able to understand the language better.
Wow, so you just zoom into something specific and back to the story. Meanwhile, back in Stockholm.
Greta är 17 år gammal. So there's that word, or, and or means year. So the year is året, and then the årets person is the person of the year. So the language focus, once again, I do the grammatique pop-up, and it explains, now get this, Jan, and everybody else, it explains that verbs in Swedish keep the same form for all subjects.
Get out of here. They don't conjugate the verb?
Well, the verb gets conjugated, but it's the same conjugation for all the subjects.
All right. As soon as we're done with this virus, I'm on a plane to Stockholm.
I'll be with you.
Bra!
Okay. Hon bor I Stockholm. Bonnie bor I Minneapolis. Jag bor I Minneapolis. Anna, var bor du?
Jag bor I Minneapolis.
Yeah, och Travis också.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alla bor I Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Grammatique pop-up. You don't have to conjugate that verb and to go with the subject. Jag bor I Minneapolis. Travis bor I Minneapolis. Vi bor I Minneapolis. Alla Buri, Minneapolis. In this video number 7, for a language focus, it is about uttal, which is pronunciation. Because in Swedish, when there's a word that has an R and an S in it, it makes a special sound. And you're going to hear about it in this video.
I can't wait.
Yeehaw! Okay, now I got to do a little thing here. That's one of my new things here. Uttal, pop-up. Uttal means pronunciation.
Mhm.
So a pop-up pronunciation, which I probably could have done earlier, but I haven't really gotten used to this one yet. But whenever you have an R and an S, it sounds like, right. So it sounds like marsh. Marsh.
Marsh. Ah,
And one of the typical names you might know as a Swedish name,
Marsh.
Lars.
Yeah. Marsh. Aha.
Yep. Now, for the last video number 8, the last video focus on the language, it's interpersonal mode with personalization. So I use language chunks that occur in the text to solicit information from the students and guide them in the practice of the interpersonal mode skills of asking and answering questions. The lesson content is used as a springboard for students to talk about themselves and others. And it's really fun to do this.
Wow, like I said at the beginning of the video, do diggy dog.
Well, you've helped me along the way there, Jan. Du diggy dog också.
Mhm.
All right, now I'm going to ask you about us. Vem föddes i Toledo, Ohio?
Bonnie.
Bonnie, bra. Föddes Bonnie den 5 mars?
Ja.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ja, Bonnie föddes den 5 mars. Var föddes Anna?
Augusta, Georgia.
Augusta, Georgia. Var föddes
Anna föddes Augusta, Georgia.
Var föddes Anna?
Augusta, Georgia.
Oh, sorry. Var föddes Travis?
Föddes
Travis föddes St. Louis, Missouri.
St. Louis, Missouri. Var föddes jag?
i St. Paul, Minnesota.
Ja, jag föddes i St. Paul och Travis föddes i St. Louis.
That was really, really incredible. I loved seeing all those little pieces of the lesson, how you're using so many ways to make the language comprehensible, and you're really getting the most out of every piece of language, teaching the natural language the way it occurs, not holding back. Even in this, the second lesson of Swedish, you've got past tense. You know, who made that rule? We've got to wait till the second year. All rules are off the table. So how do you create your own biography lesson? Well, it's simple. It's not rocket science. Let me tell you. You begin with a story. That's all a biography is. It's a story. It's the story of someone's life. Now, we all took language arts. What's a short story? A short story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. That's it. A story starts with introducing you to the setting and characters, and then you've got a problem introduced. The characters do all kinds of actions to try and solve that problem, and in the end, it's concluded with the problem resolved. So in a biography story, you start with, as this was, a simple slideshow, pictures for the comprehension and simple captions. If your students are more advanced in language, of course, you can have much more language on the screen. When you start out with introducing the person with their background, you don't have to tell their whole life story, just what parts of their background are really important to know. That led to number 2, the middle of the story. They solved some problem. Something didn't exist, and they discovered something. So there was some disease, they discovered the vaccine. No one ever did art this way. they created a new technique. No one ever wrote this way, and they wrote with a whole different style. Or no country was ever governed this way. They led a movement. And so they're major life events. That's the middle. That's the meat of your story. And then the end is simply the conclusion, the legacy. Why is this person well known? What did they leave behind from their life that still influences us today? And leads us to the questions of how are the decisions that we're making today creating the world for the future generations? So you'll find, again, in that teacher viewing packet, you'll find lots of information about how I design a lesson, how I created this slideshow that leads students from the very beginning to the end. Oftentimes, I created lots of intentional repetition. And you'll see that when Barb does a teacher read aloud in just a moment. Lots of intentional repetition so that those new language pieces get repeated, 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 repeated. That's another aspect of great storytelling. It has those repetitive lines that resonate with you, just like they do in children's books. So when I design a lesson, I start with a setup. I get the students intrigued about the topic or create, why is this relevant to learn? Then I load up with listening and reading. I put lots and lots of comprehensible input into the students' brains. I just overload them. It's a tsunami of input to get a trickle of output. In the last step, where I design activities in the classroom for inviting the students to write and speak and use their own voice in their new language in a risk-taking environment where it's open to just taking your new language out for a test drive. Retell the story in your own words. Use these chunks of language to tell the story of another person, whatever it might be. Maybe it's telling your own story. Okay, and so in the end, what we get are two things, two for the price of one: target language proficiency and target cultural knowledge. We're filling that information gap. Our students don't know how the world works. They're not world savvy. I would go so far as to say there's so much ignorance. There's ignorance about the world. And if I'm a world language teacher, I'm going to teach about the world and I'm going to teach language. That's why I'm a world language teacher. I bet that's why you're a world language teacher as well. And I found that the key to it is comprehensible input. If I use the language and I'm comprehensible, even in level 1, I can talk about any topic that I think is important for my students to learn. Any topic that I think is compelling to my students. So, Barb, tell us about the next video.
Well, in this one, video number 9, the complete biography story, it's I reread the whole story in its entirety aloud without pausing for explanations or interaction. So I read it. These read alouds let the learners hear the language in flow using natural intonations and stress. And then they record the sound of the natural language in their brain. And I just want to say one thing about one of my Swedish classes I have now that I do in my living room on Zoom. We did the Greta video the middle of September, and now all of them are writing a biography story. And it's so interesting because I'm learning more about some other Swedish people, people who have done inventions like, or sports people, or they're authors. And so it's interesting because they are writing their own stories and doing the research to learn more about the culture.
That's incredible. They're taking the language and really owning it.
Yep. School strike för klimatet. Greta Thunberg, klimataktivist. Vem är Greta Thunberg? Greta är en svensk flicka. Greta föddes den 3 januari 2003 i Stockholm. Greta 17 år gammal. Hon bor i Stockholm. Hon bor med sin familj, sin mamma, sin pappa, sin lilla syster och sina 2 hundar. Greta gick inte till skolan den 20 augusti 2018. Hon gick till riksdagshuset och satt utanför. Hon gick i strejk. Det var en skolstrejk för klimatet. Många hörde talas om Gretas skolstrejk i Stockholm. Många hörde talas om Gretas skolstrejk i Sverige. Många hörde talas om Gretas skolstrejk i Europa. Många hörde talas om Gretas skolstrejk i hela världen. Många skolor i hela världen gick i strejk för klimatet 2019. 15 mars 2019. 1 miljon människor, 2200 strejker, 125 länder. 20 september 2019. 4 miljoner människor. Greta kom till USA. Greta flög inte. Hon seglade. Hon seglade till New York City den 18 augusti 2019. Greta talade i Förenta Nationerna den 23 september. Greta talade på engelska. Hon sa, I want you to panic. I want you to feel the fear I feel every day. And then I want you to act. I want you to act as you would in a crisis. Greta talade med påven. Greta talade med Barack Obama. Greta talade med Al Gore. Greta talade för många miljoner människor.
So I'd like to thank you again for choosing this session to attend at your ACTFL Online Conference 2020. It's a new world for us here. And I hope you have been inspired by Greta's story. We hope you are inspired by what you saw happening here in the model lessons. And it gives you ideas for what's possible to do with whatever language level you teach, with whatever age your students are. They need more knowledge of what makes the world go round while they're learning their new language. So, hope you learned a lot and are inspired by Greta's story to help make the world Greta again. I'm going to remind you again, in your packet you have lots of resources, a detailed description of content-based storytelling lesson design. You have ideas, you have an actual miniature slide set of how this story was put together. So you see how there's a gradual transition that really helps build the student's comprehension as you go from the beginning of the story until the end. Every slide is very intentional. So if you go back and look through that, you'll see and notice those things on your own. And lastly, we would love to hear from you, inspired to do some biographies in your own classroom, or maybe teach this same Greta story. You will find links to this exact Greta story PowerPoint on my website. You see it listed there, educatorinservice.com. Or you can email either one of us and we can send it to you. Another option is I invite you, you see in red down there, the private Facebook group. Search, if you're a Facebook user, search Rethinking Language Instruction. Ask to join the group, where our main topic is how to take world savvy content, global issues, history, geography, current events, humanities, whatever, and how to teach that at the target language that's comprehensible to whatever age or language level our students are at. So, any final comments, Barb?
Well, I just wanted to say that Greta's mother wrote this book called Scenes from the Heart.
Oh,
And
yes.
it'll probably be coming out in English soon. I'm not sure if it's going to be called Scenes from the Heart, Scener from the Hjertat, but it might be called, Our House is on Fire, because that's one of Greta's phrases. So, but it's a very interesting book about their family.
Tack så mycket, Barb.
Ja, tack. Varsågod. Hej då.
Hej då. Tack så mycket, tack för. Hej då.
Hej då.
Hej då.